to make a bet that everybody watching this video has a preference. Length or girth? Nobody likes the pencil. I can't do this. Ooh, fingers in it. So tonight I've come to Jurassic, no, I've come to the coast for sunset with two lenses. I'm going to take some photos with my Olympus 40-150 and this, the Venus Laowa 6mm f2 lens. And I just thought it'd be fun just to come out and use two lenses at opposite ends of the focal length spectrum and just sort of have a comparison of the types of photographs that you can get with each. It's not something I've ever done before. I tend to shoot with a fairly standard 12-40 of zoom lens, you know, and well, I just thought we'd mix things up a little bit and come out to Jurassic Park and yeah, take some photos. So let's get stuck in. Now, I know this tends to trigger some of you in the comment section, but look, it's the right way around. I wasn't under the impression that L brackets had a correct way around. Apparently this is the right way around. If it's at this side, it's a big no-no. And the internet gets very upset with me. So I put it on this way today, look. And there's the 6mm lens. Let's go take some photos with it. But before we use the 6mm lens, while I was on my knees, it got me thinking about the phallic lens. I've seen a photograph I want to try and take. I don't know if I'm going to put it on a tripod or try this one handheld, but the tide is almost in and there's a couple of post tops just sticking out. There's 3 of them in particular. And I kind of thought it might make for a really fun black and white photograph. But I don't know whether or not to handheld it, tripod it, or long exposure it, or all 3. I think we're going to put it on the tripod and long exposure this one. I'm kind of hoping I've got a filter ring that'll fit on the end of this phallic lens. Let's just take the photograph on. Yeah. So I'll be honest with you, this lens isn't typically something I would use for a long exposure photograph, but there is so little wind tonight, I'm not really too concerned about it jiggling about and blurring the photograph out. So I've thrown a polarizing filter on and a 6-stop ND filter, and we're just going to go black and white, long exposure. I'm in aperture priority mode because I'm a bit lazy at the minute. F10, 2.5 seconds, and the bottom portion of this frame is where the waves are crashing about in the surf. So you're going to get a little bit of white foam down the bottom, in the bottom corner. And the rest of it, it's just going to be a slightly long exposure look. Just smooths out the water a little bit. Here it is. So the somewhat observant and frequent channel viewers amongst you will probably not recognise this camera. Well, a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine, David Flower, released this video using this camera. And well, I quite liked the images from the camera. And so after a little bit of wheeling and dealing amongst ourselves, I now own this camera. It's a Lumix GX80. It's the first Panasonic camera I've owned for many years. The first one I owned was the GX7, and that was always a camera that was on my radar to purchase again. But the GX80 is just ever so slightly more capable. So introducing my Lumix GX80. I have the Panasonic Lumix 14-42, I think it is, the kit lens with it, but today we're out using the Olympus stuff. 5-axis in-body stabilisation, 16 megapixels, touchscreen, 4K video, does everything I needed to do. So obviously one of the great things about these telephoto lenses is, well, you can take pictures of things far away without getting your feet wet. So there is a wooden post out there with an old piece of rope just wrapped around it, and I thought it might make for a fun little long exposure thing. So we're at f11, 5 seconds. I've thrown the 6-stop filter and the polarizing filter on again, and I've just punched in nice and close on this post with the rope. That's it. I'm not getting wet, which is unusual for me. And I'll be honest, it's making a nice change. Here it is. So we've experimented with length and now it's time to play with Girth. So this is my 6mm Venus Laowa lens. It's a 12mm full frame equivalent field of view, so it's really quite wide and it's where I feel a little bit more comfortable shooting. I'm not really a length kind of guy, I do prefer a bit of girth. True story. So let's get stuck in and see what we can do with this. Now there's a photograph behind me that I really want to try and take, so let's have a look and see what we can do with it. So just in front of me down here there is a group of, well, it's like a patch of grass. Let's just do a little bit of gardening and tidy some of this up. I don't know if it's grass or a plant or whatever. There's 3 posts and some little yellow flowers and some quite dramatic sky in the backdrop. So because this is such a wide angle lens, you tend to get a lot more in terms of depth of field when it comes to shooting. So if I shoot at, let's have a look at f8, I think, 13th of a second, so we should still have something nice and sharp. And as I say, this lens does have image stability, sorry, this camera does have IBIS anyway, so that looks okay. So here's that photo, and I just want to pay attention just to the stretched out grass plant thing in the foreground. That's the difference between the two lenses, you see. The telephoto lens allows you to really bring the background closer to you, whereas the ultra wide, it allows you to go slightly in the opposite direction. It allows you to really emphasize foreground subjects. So one of my absolute favourite things about shooting ultra wide is the ability to skew perspectives. If you use the lens distortion on this, if you put things at the very top, at the very bottom, and really angle the lens around, you can really distort things and make a really fun kind of looking photograph. And that's something I'm going to try and use with this high tide shelter behind me. So let's have a look and see what we can do. If I get down nice and low, and we get beyond this little patch of greenery, really sort of angle the lens upwards. Got focus peaking turned on, so I'll be able to see what I'm doing here. If I take that photo there, let's try that one again. Need to, there we go. Really kind of makes it look a little bit more dominating than it is in real life. The photo itself is a bit rubbish. It's not the best photograph I've ever taken, but it does at least kind of drum home the idea. So high tide is now upon us, so I think it's time to go down onto the beach and take a photo of my favourite high tide Spain Point subject with the ultra wide angle 6mm lens. So here we are, this is my favourite little spot at high tide. You see these posts behind me? Well, you can see it down there, the wooden boards are still attached to these ones, and it's kind of a rarity around here because it's mostly just posts. But forgive me for not showing any setup for this photo, I really just wanted to get on with it. You can see the tide's been and gone, so it's leaving a kind of mucky brown stain on the beach. I kind of wanted to avoid that, but I get the feeling I may have missed it just a little bit, and I think we're going to get some of it in the photograph. But it is what it is. So I've got 2 filters on the front of the camera. I've got a 10 stop filter and a 3 stop filter, so we've got 13 stops of filter altogether. I'm at f8, which is giving me a 60-second exposure at the base ISO of 200 on this Panasonic GX80. Now, I'm just kind of waiting here for the live photo just to appear, well, not the live photo, but the finished photo to appear on the back of the camera, and it looks, well, not quite how I imagined it, so I think I'll have to jiggle about. I'll show you it anyway, but I think I'm just going to jiggle this composition about just a little bit and just see if we can't do something a little bit better. Alright, so now I've calmed down a bit and I've had a chance to really think this one through. I realised I am using an ultra wide, so I can get really close and really exaggerate this front post with the green netting around it. So with same sort of settings as before, in all honesty, f6.3, 60 seconds, ISO 200. Again, I'm using the 10 stop and the 6 stop. But this time we're really close to the posts and it's just giving something slightly more impressive looking. Now I'm going to move back because I don't want to get wet. There we go, good timing, because usually I'm soaked about now. But I think this photograph is just going to look a little bit more impressive than the last one. So I'll show it to you once it's taken. there we go, just a bit of fun at the coast using two lenses, a telephoto and an ultra wide. So sound off in the comments below and sort of let me know if you're a length or a girth kind of person. And just because I'm inclusive on this channel, I've even thrown the pencil back on. You know, some of you might prefer the pencil. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a thumbs up and a like. It does help bring new viewers to see my content. And if you liked it more than that, there is a subscribe button below myself. You can press that and you'll see more Micro Four Thirds nonsense from me every single week. Until the next time, I'm going to love you and leave you. And as usual, I'm going to say peace and goodbye.